G'day, I'm Peter Fritz and welcome back to Landscape Photography in 3 minutes, this little series that I'm running in July. This episode we're talking about the basic gear that I reckon you need for landscape photography. Now if I've got a face like a busted arsehole, I apologise for that. That's because I got up at 5 a.m. yesterday and got back to bed about midnight after driving with my son to my dad's house up in the mountains. Lovely day, windy roads, sports car, lots of fun, beautiful weather, magic all round, but I'm knackered. And I got a bit of hay fever this morning, so I apologise for that. So, landscape photography, gear, basics. What do you actually need? Now, this can be a very short video because essentially all you need is a camera, a lens, something to carry it in, some appropriate clothing, because there's no such thing as bad weather, only inappropriate clothing, and a willingness to explore and enjoy the outdoors. That's pretty much all you need, but that would be a really short video. So we're going to go into a little bit more detail, but I reckon we can keep this under 3 minutes. So essentially what I reckon you need for landscape photography is any camera that is micro four thirds and up, micro four thirds, APS-C, full frame, medium format, anything in that range is going to be fine. 2 lenses, really, that's all you need. Something that goes from ultra wide to standard and something that is short to long telephoto. I've done a couple of videos on this, but essentially, if you've got anything that's along the lines of, say we're talking full frame, 16 to 35, and then something like 70 to 200, that's going to cover off 90% of the stuff that you're ever going to want to photograph. If you want to augment that with something that I recommend, a nice, fast prime lens, like a 35mm or a 50mm, 1.8, something like that, so you can get that nice human perspective, shallow depth of field, and that rounds out your system. In terms of filters, the only thing that I reckon you need is a polarizing filter. The reality is you can shoot beautiful landscapes without any filters, but there are situations where a filter like a polarizer is super useful for getting rid of reflections, boosting up color saturation in skies, foliage, that sort of stuff. But mainly for getting rid of reflections, a circular polarizing filter can be very useful. It can also be used to cut down the amount of light coming into the camera so that you can get longer shutter speeds for moving water, moving clouds, that kind of stuff. The other things I'd recommend are warm gloves. I've photographed in cold conditions where literally all you can think about is the fact that your fingers don't work anymore, that you're in pain. So I highly recommend, if you're going to be shooting at dawn or dusk and you're going to be in cold conditions, invest in decent gloves. Get something like the Valorets, where you've got the little flippy fingers on them so you can still operate your controls. But get something, because that can ruin your day out if your fingers are cold. Next one is sort of at the opposite end, is a hat. If you're out there in the sun at all, you don't want to get sunstroke, you don't want to get your noggin burned, wear some kind of a hat to at least protect yourself from the sun, because that can also ruin your day. Another one is if you're walking a fair bit on your own out in the bush, bring a small first aid kit with you. If you're in Australia or if you're in places where snakes are an issue, then at least bring along a couple of flexible bandages where you can pressure bandage a snake bite if you get one, because that's the last thing you want, is to be bitten by a snake out in the middle of nowhere and you just can't make it to help in time and you end up dying out there with your camera and 2 lenses. So what have we got so far? We've got camera, a couple of lenses, 1 filter, probably polarizing filter, preferably one that fits both lenses. I recommend the Freewell magnetic system or the Case magnetic system. Makes it so much easier. What else we got? We've got warm gloves, a hat to keep the sun off your face, a small first aid kit if you're going to be out there walking in the bush on your own because you don't want to die out there. You want to at least be able to do the basics if necessary. Oh, and of course a tripod, but only if deep depth of field or movement in the subject are important to you. If you need to be able to get everything in focus from front to back, a tripod is going to help enormously, obviously, because then you can do a long shutter speed, small aperture like f16, f22, which often results in a slow shutter speed, like maybe half a second or 1/8 of a second. Stick your camera on the tripod and then you get a nice steady shot. And of course, if you want to get movement in your image, not movement from shaking your camera, but there's stuff in the subject that's moving like clouds or water, then you're going to want a tripod for that in most situations. I recommend something nice and light, preferably made of carbon fiber. A tripod is one of those things that you'll buy. If you get a good one, it can last you literally a lifetime. Get a good carbon fiber tripod. I'm a big fan of the iFootage range. I've got the TC6 and the TC9. They're both brilliant tripods. Thomas Heaton uses the TC7. I also have the Peak Design carbon fiber travel tripod. That's a brilliant little thing. I know a lot of people use that as well. I love that. Folds up super small, nice and light. Sits comfortably in pretty much any backpack that you can buy. Next thing is appropriate clothing and footwear. Now, I don't wear the fancy landscape photographer clothing much of the time when I go out. I often wear tracky jacks. I very rarely wear jeans, but usually wear tracksuit pants because they're comfortable. Sometimes I'll slap on I don't even know what brand they are, but they're sort of hiking, not carbon, what am I talking about? Those sort of hiking cargo style pants that are stretchy and semi-waterproof. I sometimes wear those. But appropriate clothing. You want something that's going to be comfortable, that's going to be flexible, because you're going to be bending down, stretching, bending your knees, crouching and that kind of thing. But also I recommend carrying a jacket with you for extra warmth and have somewhere in your bag, which we'll talk about in a sec, to store it. Next thing is a head torch. If you're going to be shooting at dawn or at dusk, it's a pain in the bum stumbling around in the dark. A good quality head torch, which is adjustable in brightness, so that you can see your gear as you're unpacking it. Preferably one of those ones too, which will go super low or have a red lens setting on it so that you're not blinding yourself when you're setting up. But something that's also got a bit of reach that can see far enough ahead of you when you're walking through the bush is highly recommended. I have one of those and I augment it with a very small O-light torch as well, which sits on my camera bag, and that's always at the ready. And that's brilliant for sort of, literally looking around further away than a head torch will allow me to do. Another really important one, comms. You want to have, obviously you're going to have your phone with you, but you might be in situations where you don't have phone service. And if you fall down a gully or a crevasse or something like that, you don't want to have to rely on your phone to get help. So I really recommend, as a minimum, if you're going to go out in the bush on your own, have an EPIRB of some kind, an emergency beacon of some kind. I have a little InReach Mini. You'll see a lot of landscape photographers have those. They're small, compact, multifunction. They're powerful. The battery lasts for ages, and you can summon help if you need to with that, either with the SOS function or with text messaging through the device itself, or you can pair it with your phone and text message through that. Highly recommend you do something like that. Or get yourself just one of those little emergency beacons where you can press a button. If you're cactus, you're stuck down a gully, you've broken a leg, you can at least press the button. They'll find you, they'll send help, and hopefully you won't die out there. And the last thing is a bag to carry this in. I've had about 10 or 12 different bags, and I always seem to keep coming back to the low pro bags. For some reason, they just seem to serve me best. I know some people swear on the Shimoda bags or the f-stop bags. I still haven't bought a Shimoda. I have bought an f-stop, bought a couple of those, didn't like them for my own personal reasons. But I always keep coming back to the low pro. Most important thing is find something that works well for you. There are some bags that open from the back, so that you take the bag off and then where the straps are, you open that part of it. There are others where they open from the front. I tend to like the ones that, at least for me, that open from the front, even though it's not ideal, because you take the bag off, you sit it down, you basically got the straps now sitting on the ground, and then you're opening up the front. I know that's not ideal because it's nice to just take it off, dump it down on its face, and then open the back up. But I just find that those ones that open from the back tend to have a smaller opening. They usually have a capsule inside. So you've got to open the back, then you've got to open the capsule inside, and it's just hard getting into stuff. A lot of people swear by them though, just not me. Make sure that your camera bag is going to fit, of course, your camera, your lenses, your 1 or 2 filters, spare batteries, and anything else that you need to carry with you, like water, for example. Water is very important. A little spare torch, a little first aid kit if you're going to bring that. Make sure there is space in there somewhere to put whatever clothing it is that you might need, but you're not wearing. For example, your hat, or a beanie, or your gloves, or a waterproof jacket, or an extra warm jacket, whatever it is that you're going to be bringing with you based on the weather conditions, make sure there is a spot for that in the bag somewhere. Make sure there's also a spot for water. You want to bring a water bottle. You don't want to go thirsty out there in the bush. And of course, a spot to put the tripod, either strapped to the face of it or somewhere where you can slide it into the side, whatever. But basically, you want to have everything in the one bag, nice and compact, a place for everything and everything in its place. And there are plenty of good bags out there from Peak Design, Shimoda, f-stop, Low Pro. Like I said, I keep coming back to Low Pro. I've used them for literally 35 years and they have still not let me down. I had one of them run over by an errant race car on a racetrack, destroyed the camera gear because I had some of it sitting out on the side, but the bag was still usable after that. So pretty amazing. Last two things I would say that you need to bring with you as basic requirements for landscape photography is you need a calm demeanor. You don't want to be out there running around like a headless chicken looking for shots all over the place. That's not what it's about. You want to be chill, relaxed, happy to be out there in nature and just enjoying the environment. And the last thing you need is patience and presence, because the best photos tend to come when we slow down, we breathe, and we immerse ourselves in the environment, and we don't rush. We just allow the image opportunities to appear before us, to reveal themselves, and then we work towards capturing them. Anyway, that's it. Hopefully that was useful to you. I don't think I kept under the 3 minutes, but hopefully this was beneficial. If you did enjoy this video, please do give it a thumbs up. It actually makes a difference. And if you're not subscribed, subscribe for more videos like this coming up in the future. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.